What's up everyone, Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick and I have another album review for you. So yet another one that came out on the 2nd of July was the newest offering from Drawn and Quartered, Congregation Pestilence. This comes out on Crusader Productions. This is their 8th full length. They formed in 1994 in Seattle, Washington. Started off from 92 to 94 as Plague Bearer and then turned into Drawn and Quartered. This is some nasty, ugly, dissonant, murky, filthy death metal. The kind that I generally really like. So I was looking forward to this one. I've been a big fan of pretty much most of their discography. I recently got into them within the last couple of years, and it's very similar to stuff that I already love, like Incantation and Immolation and early Morbid Angel especially. And they continue on with that. This album's sound, first off, the production is interesting. I had to check it out on different speakers, just kind of get a real feel for it. I thought initially the guitar sounded a little thin, but the fact that they're going for like more atmospheric dissonant riffing, because this is very like oppressive and creepy sounding, almost Blackened, but not quite. They employ a lot of like black metal production sort of things in there. I don't know, it has like an interesting sound to it overall, but it never crosses over into being like blackened death metal. This is purely disgusting old school death metal. The first 2 tracks are just explosive and disgusting. Death's Disciple and Age of Ignorance both come off blast beats forward, deep gurgled vocals that remind me a lot of Raw Stolen. And again, with that production thing, I think the thing that I like is the bass is actually up in the mix. It's very distinct, and it really kind of fills out the sound, while the guitars are doing lots of layered atmospheric stuff, and you get a lot of layered dissonant riffs with squealing, like interesting solos on top of them, and then just brutal, heavy riffs left and right. The bass is providing this really cool kind of low, snarling tone underneath, and the drums are absolutely frantic on here. I was waiting for a moment where the drummer would get a break. Even on the slower sections, he's going full bore on the double bass, you know, so slow means practically nothing to this guy, I think. When they finally do get slow, it really isn't until like the later tracks, namely Rotting Abomination / The Cleansing and the title track. They actually slow down a bit and kind of get a little bit of that Finnish death doom sound in there, very similar to Sentenced or maybe a newer band like Frontalith. Just heavy, loaded with killer crawling harmonies, and I love the guitar work on here. It's very atmospheric. Unlike Immolation and Incantation, these guys don't labor like big, heavy, chuggy riffs all the time. In fact, there aren't a lot of like huge chugathons on here. Most of it is about walls of dissonant atmosphere and just big, heavy, boggy tremolo riffs. Granted, Incantation and Immolation do that, but they know how to bring in a big chug. These guys kind of labor that kind of disturbing, ominous atmosphere across the board. And I love the strange accents these guys do. In the songs Carnage, Atrocity, and Oblivion Pilgrimage, there are these strange bending notes that are kind of mingled in with the riff, and they really provide this like interesting like descending feel. The whole feel of the album is very oppressive, and those vocals on here, they are dense and murky, sometimes layered with an additional scream on top. These guys are really good about layering certain spots to kind of drive home a really just dismal feel across the board. This whole album kind of feels like a twisted mix of Morbid Angel's Blessed Are the Sick and Incantation's Onward Towards Golgotha. Like Blessed, it kind of thrives on the murky atmosphere and making it sound like atonal and just strange, but throwing in a lot of like dazzling riffs that are just really interesting. But it has that sort of bullet train pace of Onwards to Golgotha, where it is just relentlessly heavy at all times. And I really dug the mix. The thing that I've always liked about Drawn and Quartered, at least across all the releases that I own, which outside of this one, I think I own all of them, is they are remarkably consistent about what they do. They don't have a lot of variance between albums just in terms of their overall sound. There are slight tweaks here and there, This one pretty much just keeps up with that, though I think this one has a few more atmospheric things that I like about it. And as always, it's an intense listen. There's really no like atmosphere in between tracks. There's not a lot of pauses when it comes down to like, you know, building up anything in terms of like, you know, additional stuff like keys or samples or anything like that. It's all driven by the music. And maybe one thing I can complain about here is a lot of the songs sort of just explode right out of the gate. They don't take a lot of time to build up, though there are some tracks that do take a little bit more time, namely the title track, which is probably the slowest track on here, though it is not full bore slow. And Dispensation / Arise of the Antichrist actually brings in a really cool groove that kind of just carries it for a bit. Doesn't try to go straight for the blasts or any sort of like thrashy, you know, drum beats or anything like that. It stays in this kind of slower to mid-tempo groove and really just lets this riff just get stuck in your head. And this is going to circle back to the guitar work. Another thing that I liked is this only has like kind of a handful of traditional solos. Mostly what this is about is layering a lot of sounds, like a lot of like dissonant melodies, lots of creepy crawling harmonies, and some really cool lead melodies to accentuate that. But you do get some really cool solos on here that, you know, are just, you know, ugly death metal solos. But there are some that really do stand out. Six Devils, Trepanation. That one actually has like a decidedly melodic solo, at least for the style. And it really kind of has like a cool hook to it. It's not like, again, you know, when I say melody, death metal melody is different. It's not like the happy feel-good melodies. For anyone that's not a death metal fan watching this, I can't imagine why you're watching it. But death metal melodies, especially this kind of death metal, very different. These melodies are intended to make you feel uncomfortable, and it sounds creepy and eerie and dreary and all the appropriate negative adjectives. That's what the guitar work does on here. I gotta say the pacing in here is really good too. It does lean on the blast beat forward, very dissonant side at first, but then it starts opening up and starts showing off the more like Death Doom moments on here, and it kind of opens up the album a little more, especially towards the back half. The back half, I think, is some of the best work on here. If I can make any complaint about the first half of this, is it might be a little too busy at times. It kind of gets a little frantic, and you kind of lose the rhythm occasionally, because the vocals kind of follow their own cadence. They're sort of just bellowed at will, but it does pick up, and towards the like early middle of the album, you start getting more of those Death Doom breaks that are more distinct. And those are just real standouts. I absolutely love the breaks because you get like the nice little switch off there. Overall, this is a flat out sick death metal album. It thrives on being uglier than hell, and it succeeds with flying, ugly, pukey fucking colors. So overall, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. This is yet another sick album from these guys. I've been a big fan of their last 2 releases especially, and the thing about consistency, you know, comes out here. They are maintaining their sound, they're doing subtle tweaks here and there. I like that this one might be a touch more on the atmospheric side. These guys have a standard that they maintain, and I absolutely love that. The riffs are great. This has a really ugly, oppressive feel across the board, and it is relentlessly heavy. There really are no breaks on here to escape the absolute pummeling that this album is going to deliver. If you love old school death metal and you like creepy sounding, ugly death metal, which are kind of one and the same if you're doing it right, definitely check this band out. I literally ordered this right after I finished listening to it. It was that good. So I strongly recommend you guys pick this one up. It's badass. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to hit us up on there, there'll be a link below in the description. And we have t-shirts now too. If you would like one, please hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message, put shirts in the subject, make sure it's nice and big because we're blind as f. We will get back to you, get your information, get your size, and get you a shirt out there. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you later.